Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Draw Juice universe. I'm Chris Petracchi, and today on the show, I have a very special guest. This animation legend, whose work you can see behind me animating as I flip through the drawings, is one artist whom I've had the pleasure of both working with and knowing. And I hope you won't mind me saying this, but aside from the legendary Frank Frazetta, his artwork has really influenced me the most. His name is Robert Valley. He's an illustrator, animator, and director living in Vancouver, and his career has spanned far and wide. He's done a string of videos for Gorillaz music videos, character design for feature films like Disney's Tron Uprising. He's animated and directed TV commercials for Coke, Pepsi, Nike, MTV's Eon Flux, among others. Rob's short film, Pear Cider and Cigarettes, won an Annie Award and was nominated for an Academy Award. In 2019, he directed the critically acclaimed short film Zima Blue for Netflix's anthology Love, Death, and Robots. So without further ado, let's jump into this wide-ranging conversation where I talk with Rob about art and life and a lot of other stuff. Man, it's been a long time since we've seen each other.
Yeah, we just had a little chat before you hit the record button. It's been, I think we determined it's been about 10 years now, right?
Exactly. Which
Yeah.
seems too long to me. I was like,
I marched my 10-year-old over here, which was a pretty good yardstick to sort of help us figure out how long it's been.
I was pretty much going, okay, that is a long time right there.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because he was like this big, you're holding him like this, and he walks just 5 minutes ago, he walked behind you and he's like the string bean,
Yeah.
10 years old, but he looks 12. He looks I couldn't tell if he was 15 or 12. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell with the camera and everything and
right
scale. Yeah. But he's a real human doing real human things,
Right. So how has that affected your art and I know it's probably affected your bottom line because of course you have to support the family and stuff, but beyond that, has it brought any revelations philosophically? In what ways has it affected your art, if any?
Yeah, you've really just dived into the deep end of the swimming pool there.
I want you to start treading.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you exactly the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Was my wife got pregnant and we were, up until that point, we were kind of traveling around and we were just having a good time, sort of living a fairly comfortable lifestyle. I would say that that wasn't like a hugely ambitious time in my career. I had maybe taken my foot off the gas a little bit. And it probably was doing just enough work to pay the bills. And to be honest, right at that time, that whole Gorillaz, that whole ride, the whole Gorillaz ride in the UK came to a stop. They kind of stopped doing these music videos where the record company was throwing a lot of money at these music videos. And, the internet and iTunes and stuff was starting to affect the whole business model. And right at that time, Jamie Hewlett got married and moved to Paris. Pete Candelan, his wife got pregnant and he moved to New York. And my wife got pregnant and we moved back to Vancouver. So we had kind of disbanded and went our own ways. Because that Gorillaz ride was fucking fun, man. But like all good things, it has to come to an end. And so as I was kind of here in Vancouver, kind of lamenting the lack of steady work, that I was going through. And then Jackson was born. And I was worried about the uncertainty of the future. I kind of I felt like
Scared scared, right? A little bit.
yeah, but I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to do any more independent work anymore.
Oh,
That I
right.
would have to get a regular job and just basically be more focused on paying the bills.
Right.
And so I was a little bit worried about how that was going to, because that's sort of the most, enjoyable part of what I do is doing, I make a bit of money. And then once I have a bit of money, then I kind of float, and then I publish my own book, or I'll do like a little short film. And that's the stuff that I think is the most important stuff.
Yeah.
And so I thought that whole thing was going to come to an end. And I wasn't sure what the future had to offer. Jackson was born. And the first thing I did was I phoned Charlie Bean in Los Angeles. And I said, I'm ready. And he says, what do you mean? Because he was directing that Tron Uprising stuff with Alberto Miyago was there.
Okay.
And in Los Angeles. And I'd already started doing some character design, but I was kind of doing it remotely. And I said, I'm ready to commit to working at Disney. And he goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, but I want a work visa. And he says, no problem. So within about 2 weeks, he had a work visa through Disney, which was a real good one. And Jackson was 3 months old, and we packed up my truck and we drove down to Los Angeles, and that's when I saw you.
Okay. So it was like,
and we came through the Bay Area, and we went to LA, and then I had a regular job. This was it. I was working a regular job. I was going to work Monday to Friday. I was going to work early in the morning and coming back at night. I had my weekends off, and I was miserable. I hated having a regular job.
Well, it was kind of like the Colossal days, right? It was sort of back to the grind.
No, but I love that. I don't know what it was about like working, at Disney. That was nice. The people were nice. I got benefits. I got all sorts of, I was putting money in the bank, but I felt like I was always looking forward to the weekend. And when Sunday came around, I was always dreading Monday morning. And so I got to the point where it felt like work and I wasn't enjoying it, I mean, I like Charlie, and working with Alberta was great, but I don't know. It's just the having to be there for 40 hours a week. I think I've been working at home for too long and I'm all screwed up. So I did that. And then that project ended at a certain point. And two things happened after that. I had like a work visa screw up, and I had to leave the States, and I'm never allowed in the States again. And that was heartbreaking for me that happened.
Was there?
And the other thing that happened was my dad died right at that time.
Oh.
And so we had to come up to Vancouver and move in at my mom's house with my family. And I had to start over again. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Never allowed in the States again. I mean, I desperately had to turn this lemon into lemonade. And I thought that, I started thinking about my dad and the way that you spend your life. When you get older, maybe you don't do the things you want to do, maybe you put off the things that you wanted to do when you were younger. And I started putting things in a certain perspective. And I came to the conclusion that I desperately needed to, I had to start making the Pear Cider and Cigarettes film.
Okay.
That was the big revelation for me. I thought, that, you know, I thought that that was the only lifeline that I had that could possibly sort of take me and help me sort of out of the situation I was in.
Okay, I see. I vaguely remember some of that. I'm not sure why you couldn't come back to the States, but I'll get to that, but I wanted to just back up and just tell the audience how we met. So we met at Colossal Pictures in San Francisco, and we were just doing MTV stuff, Aeon Flux, Coca-Cola, United Airlines, just all these commercials for TV and film and stuff like that. And that's how we met, right? And so you were animating there. I was sort of thrust into this because I was a drawer painter. I wasn't an animator, but I saw what animation could be and do, and I was really excited by what I saw and the caliber of people drawing there, that I was like, okay. And I wanted to make money. I didn't know if I could make any money in this career. So I jumped at that chance. And so that's how we met. And I just was, you know, it was just really, for me, an eye-opening time and a different way to learn how to draw, incorporating movement and timing and storytelling. It was totally different from animation. And so you were someone who I saw these drawings that were like, they were just moving, they were animating, but each particular drawing had this movement to it as well. It had this energy. And I wanted to tap that. I wanted to, you know, break that code. And so that was really fun for me. It was kind of an exciting time to
Now, plus we were doing lots of life drawing back then.
We were doing the life drawing, and that, I think, was really where I got to talk to you and ask you, well, how are you doing that? How did you get that effect and stuff? I was just kind of, it was just like a fun, free, open exchange of creativity and information and friendship and stuff.
You were so keen on learning. You know what I mean? You always had really good questions, and we're just really, I could tell that you were just really interested in pushing your skills forward, you know?
Yeah, I was mesmerized. I mean, art always mesmerizes me, and there's always that special thing. It's still there when you create some illusion on paper and there's that payoff, you know? And so when I saw you doing that, you know, it was like it had me. I was hooked, and I was like, how do you get that? I want to know. And that, so I have to say, to this day, I mean, that's sort of a standard that I've always put there as far as like people that I've met that have influenced me. You know, it has to be like, you're definitely in that mix as an important person for me, for style, for little like hieroglyphs that you would do. You do these partial drawings, but they looked, everything was there, but there was things edited out heavily, right? Because you have to draw fast in animation. So, and the way that you would I guess exaggerate things, the design sense. So you could do everything from very rendered stuff to like highly stylized and everything in between. And I learned bits and pieces from that and kept those in my tool belt. And so that's definitely influences what I do now. I mean, everything influences us as we go. And so that's, I just want to say sort of that piece to where we met and how that influenced.
Well, you know, the next link on that chain was I moved down to Half Moon Bay. And
that's right.
One day, Jeannie and I were like at some sort of like, there's like a, I don't know what, like a farmer's market, and there's some live music there.
It's like a festival or something.
Yeah, down in Half Moon Bay. And so we grabbed a beer and we were sitting on the dirt. And I remember looking up, and there was this, it was like the back of a trailer, a truck trailer.
Yeah.
And you were playing, I think you were playing like, it was like Alice in Chains, Man in the Box. I think it was Man in the Box. And I remember looking out there and I saw you playing guitar, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Chris. Yeah. And I didn't know that you lived in Half Moon Bay, because I didn't have any friends down there.
I remember that.
And so we became, you know, that's sort of, you know, created that next chapter in our friendship.
Yeah.
And then,
because the music.
And I tell you what, it wasn't long after that I recall that you really started to surge forward with your artistic skills. And I even sort of referred to it as like you were having your own little renaissance
Yeah.
down there in Half Moon Bay, because you definitely like were at a certain level. And then within a very short period of time, I mean, I've only seen this happen with a few people. You kind of started to surge forward in a really impressive rate. And I remember watching that from a distance and going, holy crap, look what's happening down there, man. That's exciting.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But tell you what, all that thinking and those questions you're asking and the practicing and the schooling and all the time that you spent, it started to pay off.
you know, it was just something I wanted so bad. I don't know. That's how you know what your calling is, right? It sort of calls you and you can't resist it. And then
Yeah.
things around that they feed you and they kind of inform you. And it's people like when I met you or Garrett or you know, a bunch of other talented people at Colossal, and it goes on from there, right? And you know, the stuff you were doing was like, you know, head and shoulders above so many people, and it's like your career has always, you know, it's taken off, and you've been able to do, you know, you've been able to work for companies, but you've also been able to do your independent work, and it shows, you know, people follow you, they follow your animation, and it's like you have this fan base, you know.
Well, that sort of takes us back to what I was talking about before, is like when you know, I'm looking at like the spectrum of work that's been done. It's all, you know, the stuff you do, you know, the money work, that's all enjoyable. But for me, it's the stuff that you do, the other stuff that you do for yourself. That's the stuff that has more longevity to it, I think.
Well,
And unfortunately, that stuff doesn't pay a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true. So let me kind of, I think what were we talking about before oh, you were talking about raising your son and kind of how that tweaked your expectations of what was your responsibilities, like shouldering these responsibilities and what that was going to look like, right, for your work, and your work, where you could work, how you could work, with this type of things you could do, and some things that you might have to let go of, which sounds like that's a maturing process.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I had a new human in my family, and like I said, my dad passed away, so you know, things were happening, and then I started that film. I mean, that film took like 3 or 4 years to do, and when I came out of the end of that, I kind of wasn't the same person as I was when I started that film.
How's that?
I just felt like just I don't know, just, it was 4 years, right? So I felt like, you know, it was a struggle. I quit drinking for a few years. Just really got down to business. I was really focused on finishing that thing. And there was a point where I kept thinking that at the beginning stages, when I started working on it, there was going to be a point of no return where I was going to be so locked into it that it was just going to take me until I finished the project.
And so, and that was a real personal story. That's all about real stuff that happened to you as you went through it with your friend and over in China and his illnesses and stuff like that, right? And
It was about my friend Techno, but it was also about me too. It was about I was putting in order, you know, all these things that were kind of unresolved when I was going to high school, my relationships with people, you know, just all these things that were kind of like I said, they were unresolved. And I finally had a chance to sit down and sort of put everything in sort of a certain order that made sense to me. And then I didn't think about it anymore. I was sort of done with it, you know? And then, so that was a huge kind of a weight off my shoulders.
So that story had a way of resolving some of that stuff, going through it and resolving it, and then putting it somewhere and then allowing you to move on. Sounds like.
Yeah, it really did. It was really, really good. And I tell you what, man, when I was working on that film, I couldn't wake up early enough in the morning to start working on it. Oftentimes I'd be up at 3 or 4 in the morning, but there were oftentimes I would wake up to take a piss in the middle of the night. Like it'd be like 1:30 or 2, and I'd look at the clock, and it'd be like 1:30 or 2, and I go, "Oh yes, I can start working." And then I'd sit at my desk, and then I'd have the whole day.
Oh, that's
And you
amazing.
know what I mean? I didn't feel like that when I worked at Disney. And so there's a difference. Like there's kind of a, I don't know what it is. I just liked it more. There was never a time working on it that I didn't enjoy working on it.
Yeah, it's like ownership and of your ideas and developing them is huge difference, I think.
Oh man, there's nobody telling me what to do on that film. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There's no client, no money.
And so you did all the animation on Photoshop, right? In the timeline.
Yeah.
And you kind of did these, you developed this technique for it. You colored it. You had like these interesting filters that you did for the shading and stuff like that. It was pretty cool, like what you could do in Photoshop and make it.
Well, I started with the intention of going graphic novel to animation. So, you know, all the shading techniques, all the rendering that I was doing in the graphic novels, I was always stumped how to translate that into animation until I realized that there was a timeline function in Photoshop. And actually I could bring those drawings into Photoshop. And, you know, the key thing was, you know, usually when you're animating, you have a line work, and then the line work gets colored in, and then you do the shadows and the highlights, and that gets put on the character. And then you can blur it or you can keep it crisp, but it's either one or the other. It's either all blurry or it's all crisp because you're just putting a filter on it. And then that's the look of it. That's the look of the animation. But I was actually bringing in these fully rendered pieces of artwork, and I was breaking it up into these elaborate little pieces. And then I was just basically moving little rendered pieces of artwork. It was more like stop motion than it was 2D animation, you know, because once I got into a scene, and I would, like I said, I had like this elaborate sort of, if I had a character, you know, I would sort of break off the arm and the elbow and everything else, and all the musculature. And then I would, and because a lot of animation is just redrawing stuff. For example, if you have like kind of a movement like this,
yeah,
it's basically like you keep drawing the same angle over and over and over again. And I wanted to reduce the amount of inefficient sort of time spent animating. So, but that's not enough. You can't just hinge drawing and move it. You see, when I'm doing this, everything's moving quite subtly, especially everything around here. So I made a point of like, you know, there was a lot of like kind of moving pieces, but then I would go through and I would actually start to, you know, put a little bit more line work on it and just kind of move things around, because to make it seem more like it was more fully animated, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's that beauty of the magic of making something come alive. And it takes everything that you have, all your creativity, all your drawing skills and stuff like that, and you're visualizing it sort of onto the paper, seeing it inside, and then pushing it onto the paper or whatever kind of thing.
That's exactly it. You know, every morning I'd wake up and I'd have a scene that I had in my imagination that day, and I had a key frame because I was working from the comic book. Okay. And so basically it was like it was a blank slate when you sit down. But I knew at the end of the day, there'd be a scene that's animated and composited and put into the edit that night. And to me, that was so exciting that that evening, something existed that didn't exist earlier on that day, you know? And it added like another like second or 2 or 3 seconds onto the length of the film. And, you know, you couldn't really see the progress of the film really happening over the course of days, but over the course of weeks, you could actually start to see progress happening. And and that was so exciting, actually seeing like a film sort of, starting to come alive right
Yeah,
in front of
right. It's just like for me, or like creating a song, and you put down the rhythm track, and you're not, you have this vague idea, but you catch something out of the air,
me. Yeah,
and you put it down, and then there's a little melody and stuff, and as it comes on, and as you get more and more ideas, and then the better it gets, the more excited you get, and then you get
yeah,
to the end, and you're just like, oh my god, that's like so fun. It was so,
yeah.
maybe it was, so I love that. Yeah, I totally
That
understand.
that's a cool idea, grabbing something out of the air, you know.
Right, because the ideas are fleeting. They're just going. If you don't grab them, for me, they're gone. I love it.
Exactly. That's
So
exactly.
I want
Yeah.
to ask you two questions, maybe, like about how you think, and and the process. So early on, you were drawing really realistic stuff, very representational, kind of classical, and then
I was Frazetta boy.
yeah, tell me about how you went from that, in your um, animation school days, even maybe at, what was the place called, Sheridan, and then
Yeah.
you morphed into the stylized thing, right? So you abandoned that old stuff, and you took elements of it, and then you transformed it into something that's now your signature style. And what was it that, did you get kind of bored of that and just say, I want to, did your aesthetics change? How did that work?
Yeah, it's funny. I look at those old drawings and it doesn't even seem like that's coming from the same person,
Oh, they were
like
just amazing. They were seriously, uh, it seemed that they spoke, you know, Frazetta, they kind of spoke this Michelangelo classical thing coming through the drawings. There was just so informational in them, and so astute, and so precise and loose. And then you kind of just took that and went a different direction, let's say.
Yeah, I think I think
Mm.
you nailed it. It was sort of like that classical sort of drawing thing. And obviously, Frazetta was a huge, I mean, Frazetta is an incredible drawer. I could never paint, but I was always sort of just studying like the drawing part of it, the energy, just just how like the thing with him is he picks the perfect moment to capture, and it tells a bigger story. And that is an incredible skill to be able to do that. And well, what happened was we had a studio, and you used to work at that studio at Maverick Studios. And I was sitting in there with Stuart, and I was
Mm.
sitting in there with Bosco, and I was sitting there with Jamie Baker. And sometimes, Garrett or Tony would sort of sit there in a rotating desk, and then shows started sitting there. And there was kind of like this, there was this introduction to new artwork that I hadn't really been exposed to before. So I was introduced to Mike Mignola, huge influence for me. I mean, in terms of like the composition and the storytelling ability from like one piece of artwork, he definitely took a few things from Frazetta, and sort of took it in a bit of a different direction. But I think there's something sort of similar there. But it's pared down to something so graphic and simplified that that translates really well into animation.
Yeah.
And then with the likes of Garrett, around Garrett Sheldrew, I kind of wanted to up my ability to draw female characters. So I started looking at a lot of Milo Manara, and I
Yeah.
think he was sort of the top of the totem pole as far as erotic artists go. But I mean, I kind of got to the point where I had the stuff on my lap and I was drawing, and there's a point where I had to put the book away, and because you can't really learn if you're just looking at somebody else's work like that. So I rented some like VHS tapes of like Playboy sort of tapes, and I would just draw almost like life drawing, but like I was just kind of like just figure drawing, trying to figure out like a way of sort of, you know, capturing, woman in like an erotic kind of way.
That was dynamic. It was like movement there.
Yeah, but I was trying to find my own style, and it was, that's kind of like what I did for a while. And
I remember
I
we
mean,
did that. Oh, go ahead.
well, yeah, and so
We did that Nike commercial, that Peekaboo Street thing. And you did
yeah,
all this keyframe animation of her skiing and twisting and blasting off into the, jumping. And that was so fun because your camera angles, I mean, they were like extreme worm's eye view, low camera angles as she's coming up and twisting through. And you'd see her feet and her calves and her butt and her back, but they were all like extremely foreshortened, like really challenging shit with the hair wrapping around and the skis out like this, ski poles. And everybody had fun doing that and learning from that and going, oh, that's how you would draw it from that angle. So your ability to kind of put your own style in there, but also to see that in your mind from cut to cut, scene to scene with these action things, it's quite stunning,
well, there's that recurring thing that I keep coming back to, is that was very much a comic book style, that was a little bit of Neil Adams in there, with the foreshortening. There's probably a bit of Milo Manara in there, because I was looking at not Milo Manara, a lot of Mike Mignola, but it was sort of translating those sort of graphic novel styles into animation. And it's a struggle, because when you're working on a graphic novel, you're kind of doing it by yourself, right? But when you're working on a little production, an animation production, you're working with a crew of people.
Yeah.
So it kind of like, the job sort of becomes its own thing. It's sort of a collection of everybody contributing in a certain way and working on it, right? And
you have to let go. I remember talking to Peter Chung, and he was like, you have this personal story and vision and stuff, but you just eventually have to let go, because other people have to do it. You can't do it by yourself. And everybody has these different levels of ability to be able to draw like the creator. And so they don't always hit the mark. So it's kind of like, you just go, at some point, it's got to go out there and you got to let go,
That's a perfect example of Peter did those Eon Flux shorts, and you can see just how involved he was in that stuff. Like, he probably was doing most of the animation, except for that episode that Garrett animated. But Peter was all over that stuff, and he could be, because he was a workaholic and he was young. And you can do that when you're young. And these things were only like 3 or 5 minutes long. This wasn't a feature film, and wasn't the half-hour TV series yet. But then when we started working on the half hours, holy cow, then you have to crew up with people. That's when Eric Canetti showed up at the studio.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I got kind of more involved with the stuff. And there were people overseas, and we're all trying to draw like Peter. And that was like the most unfriendly animation style you could possibly think of, because it was just it's so peculiar to him, it's just his style, the way he exaggerates things, all the detail in there and all the fine line work and everything. It was a true trial by fire work stuff, man, that's for sure. And there were people quitting in Japan. They're just like, I quit. People in tears in different studios. And meanwhile, Peter I think he was enjoying it. I think he was like evil laughter, like, ha ha ha, I'm driving everybody crazy.
Oh, that's great. Well, one thing that you did, you had to kind of like stylize and graphitize everything. So going from these sort of rendered volumes to seeing shapes really well. And I think you did that. I mean, you have to do that in animation. So the peekaboo street and all that, the way that you pick the shapes to do, the shapes that you did, the relationship like between the eye and the nose, and how you would put two slits for the nostrils and then do the triangles in the side of the mouth, that there was lots of lip, teeth, and just stuff that there was like a constellation of stuff that was fun to look at, the way that you connected the head to the neck to, and you'd use these specific shapes that were like these really shorthand things that were, precise. And so how did you move from like tones to shapes, if you remember? Or was it
Yeah. Well, what happened then was I got a job in London working with Jamie Hewlett.
the gorilla stuff?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Jamie's stuff?
Yeah, I mean the gorilla stuff.
Oh my God. I mean, that opened my mind up to just graphic simplicity and stylization. It's got a little bit of Mad Magazine in there, got a little bit of Jack Davis, got a little bit of Mike Mignola, and definitely he's, because Jamie's a comic book artist and he's got mountains of comic book pages that he's done, and he's kind of hacked out his own style. And man, I started working on that stuff, and it became completely irresistible to draw things in Jamie's style after a while. It was just so satisfying. And if I look at that cocktail where I am right now, stylistically, I mean, there's a nice base of Frank Frazetta in there. There's a bit of Mike Mignola. There's definitely a generous helping of Peter Chung, and the Jamie Hewlett thing in there as well. That's sort of like the cocktail. And then gradually I took all those ingredients and kind of through working on my own graphic novels, started to come across my own style, which was kind of a bit of, I mean, you can see the influences, but it started to go off in its own direction a little bit. And I guess, the thing that people associate with my work is, the forced perspective and the exaggerated proportions and the fisheye lens, all that kind of stuff, I think is kind of associated with my style. As much as I like the Mike Mignola flatness design thing, I do like that as, I like Mobius as well, but I think, I don't know, man. It was like working with Peter. His head to body ratio was, like about 12 heads, 12 heads high. And I just started looking like that. And I just started liking it, it looked elegant.
A couple of things I stole from you was like that. I remember you would draw a nose and you'd have that line going over the bridge, separated like the bony part from the cartilage part.
Yeah.
And then it's like kind of snag. Then everybody does that now. It's like, I'm like, where did that come from? There must be few people doing it, right? But that's where I got it, was from you. And then different things about how you would draw the mouth, or just fun stuff like that. And so I guess we're kind of like these little thieves in a way, because I have that Frazetta big time influence. Like Frazetta is my favorite artist for my whole life. It's like I never got off feeding off Frazetta because he was just fucking awesome.
I know. And the thing I like about Frazetta is
he didn't draw the feet. He didn't draw feet, remember?
Yeah. But he peaked out later on in his career. And that made me think, in his 40s and 50s is kind of when he did all his important work, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, spanning decades.
Yeah. Well, I think you and we have some of the same ingredients, there's some of the same influences, but I'm a thief. I'm definitely, I told you, I've had fucking books on my desk, on my lap when I'm drawing and trying to figure out how they were doing this stuff. It's like trying to learn how to play a song on the guitar. you know,
Exactly.
and
And doing it repetition,
yeah,
pouring through
yeah,
it.
yeah. And then after a while, then you start to make your own songs, I think.
All right. So how do you, I know you said you put the book away and you started drawing, right? So there's a certain amount of readiness to put the book away and launch off on your own thing. But then combine that, or try to elucidate, if you could, like how you see it in your mind and project it onto the paper. How does that go? Do you have that? Or to what degree do you have that sort of ability to do that? Or is it just that you kind of have this hazy thing in your mind and you create it, and whatever comes out on the page, and it's elusive?
Yeah, I think. Have you ever seen Garrett draw? You ever see the way he draws?
Well,
Have
yeah,
you
that
ever
was one of the
actually
things
watched
that
him draw?
when I came into the studio at Colossal, I saw him and Tony were sitting in a cubicle, and
I
I was
remember.
looking, and they were doing some basketball thing,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
drawings were like wiry wisps, and they would flip a couple pages, and I was like, that's not a drawing. Like I just didn't understand. Like I knew it was great, but I was like, that's wisps. I could do that. I was thinking, right. But then it was something I was not doing it. It was not on my radar to draw like that, to catch the movement, the energy, right?
Yeah. And once you shoot it, you see it all moving together.
You
Then
see it
you
all
get
moving
it.
together, right?
But I mean, if you were to watch Garrett draw, which
Mm.
I've done, on a few occasions, he just kind of sits there very patiently, and then it feels like he's just conjuring stuff out of the page, and it's sort of like it's almost like looking at clouds, and there's
Mm.
kind of like what looks like kind of a scribble.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like much, but then he starts to like conjure out,
Yeah.
teasing out little bits of detail, and then things start to appear out of the clouds.
Yes.
And I mean, you got to wonder, like, was he did he have that in his head first, or is he just kind of going with it? It's the same question that you just asked, right? But I
Perhaps
think, yeah,
a bit of both. Like
yeah, I
who's in
think,
control? The question is, like, who is in control? Because I mean, part of the fun of drawing is like the drawing is speaking back to you, informing you what to do to it next.
yeah.
You
But
know?
you can sort of direct, the flow of it. You know what I mean? It's not just some random thing that's just a rudderless boat.
Right.
You go in with an idea, and then you kind of got to sort of just be open to those little pleasing little accidents that sort of take place.
Yes.
Because that
Yes.
sort of takes you on a little bit of a harrowing sort of journey as you're kind of making your
Yeah,
way through the job. And at
exactly.
some points, the drawing's not looking good at some points. But then you just keep working it and you keep working it, and then it turns a corner, and all of a sudden it
Yeah,
turns into one of your best drawings, but it didn't start off that way.
exactly. There's that whole, like you nailed it when you said it's harrowing. And I kind of liken it to if you have a Ferrari and you're driving it on Highway 1 and you're going over
Yeah,
Devil's Slide,
yeah,
and it's exciting as hell, but you could lose control and go over the edge and completely die. And that's just how the drawing is. You're invested in it. You're excited
yeah,
about the end result, but in the middle, it could all go to shit. And then you're
yeah.
just like destroyed, right? So there's
Just,
that
yeah,
adrenaline going through it, because there's like the edge is near all the time,
yeah,
and you're trying to keep it on track the whole way. And
yeah,
it's addictive. It's exciting.
yeah. I think so. I mean, once you're kind of in the engaged in that activity of doing that drawing, then you're kind of you're going to see it through to the bitter end,
Right.
and it could go good, sometimes not so good.
You can see it through to the bitter end. I love that. A lot of people maybe can't stomach that, right? The bailout in the
Yeah.
process, seeing it through to the bitter end.
Can I show you something? This is something that I came across recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to enable my screen sharing here for a second.
Okay.
This is a perfect example of that. Do you know how to enable screen sharing? Oh yeah, I got it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so let me
Because I want to talk about what you're doing too now.
yeah,
Um, but there was
kind of
there was a quote by Einstein, and he said, "I'm not particularly gifted in any one area. I just have this insatiable curiosity." And I thought that was a profound statement,
I think that's totally true.
because the
Yeah.
curiosity can get you started, and it can sort of keep you through the process, and not, and it's not totally your prowess, let's say, that's doing it. It's something else.
Well, I mean, he had a very fertile imagination. Um, okay, so let me I gotta find it here.
There's that robertvalley.com webpage right in front of the screen.
Oh yeah, I'm redoing my website.
Is that anything?
It's been kind of down. Yeah. Well, this is sort of the template for it, but we're trying to figure out the navigation for it. But this is very much geared towards having like an NFT release here in the near future.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of gathering up all the recent work, Ice, which we just finished, and Zima Blue, which was in the first season of Love, Death, and Robots, Pear Cider and Cigarettes, which was really like, that's the project that really changed things around for me. In the middle of somewhere, we did this BELUSHI project, the animation for BELUSHI. Have you seen that?
No. Where can we see it?
And then there's this Metallica music video. It's on Showtime.
Oh, neat.
But yeah,
Wow.
I'll just pull up some of these designs here.
I minted a couple of NFTs.
How did that go?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's easy to do. It's a little expensive because the gas fees, but I had someone animate it. So it's just this sort of cycling animation where it looks like it's moving. It's just sort of, and it's fun. Yeah, so you would be perfect for that. Sounds like you're already on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get all my ducks in order first. So this was a documentary about John Belushi recently, and this is
that's fun.
Some of the rough designs there. These were actually some of the storyboard frames. The panels. Sometimes the likeness you get in these storyboard panels, they go pretty far along the production pipeline. It occurred to me when I was working on this that he's got Marlon Brando eyes.
Yeah.
John Belushi does. It's sort of like the way this whole thing creates kind of a diamond shape.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the design idea. I mean, his nose is quite different than Marlon Brando's there. That's John Belushi's father. That's young John Belushi there. A lot of this film was sort of visualizing, parts of John Belushi's life where, they didn't have any footage or photos, to get across parts of the story. So
those are great. Those are fun. I like the combination of the graphic line, holding it tight around the silhouette, and then inside you're doing some modeling. That's a nice combination.
Yeah. Well, this is a good example of like the effect of Jamie Hewlett on me. It's sort of the thicker outer line with the kind of thinner line work on the inside. I just sort of happened to do a little bit more shading here and there to get a little bit of roundness, but it's very much, in that kind of gorillas kind of world, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that one. I love that one in the middle, second down, second row on the left. The way his nose is kind of pushed in, flattened.
Yeah.
And that one on the right top, where's that one eyebrow? That's totally John Belushi, man.
Yeah, he was all about his eyebrows, that guy. His grandma.
Oh,
tender moments. Yeah. But this is his wife, Judy. Yeah.
Huh.
I think And the thing with this project is there's so many different sort of stages of John Belushi that we go through that, the model sheets were, we had lots of different model sheets. This is sort of Animal House, John Belushi right there.
Yeah.
Starts to puts on a bit of weight here. There's Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd was easy to draw, but John Belushi, he was a little difficult.
Those are cool. Yeah, that's really, everybody knows that. It's an icon of John Belushi. So that's on where's it at?
On Showtime.
Okay.
Yeah. Showtime. Yeah. So and there's a whole cast of celebrities in here: Joe Walsh, Willie Nelson, Stevie Nicks. There's the Allman Brothers right here. There's
Stone.
Keith Richards and Ron Wood. There's a random dude here. It's Francis Ford Coppola. There's what's that guy's name?
Nice. Which one?
This guy. That's from The Shining. What's his name?
Oh, Jack Nicholson.
That's Jack Nicholson. And then
I love these crowd shots. You pan across those as as people are partying.
Yeah.
You've done that quite a bit in your Pear Cider graphic.
Well, I'm all screwed up in the head because I love doing stuff like that. I don't know why I'm compelled to do that, but I love stacking up overlapping shapes into like a big sort of into a big organized mess.
Yeah,
I just think that's kind of fun.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah,
that's where I would give up and break my pencil, I think.
Well, you kind of start to draw. It's not about detail, it's about like harmonizing all the little bits of the drawing in a certain way. Like I think when I started doing that was right around this period with this particular drawing. It's the reggae album cover, and just the way all the people in the background here, they all have kind of a flow to them. It's not about the individual people. It's about like how all their feet are pointed towards the same vanishing point down here somewhere.
Yeah.
And
so you have these sort of organizing things that you can hang the drawing on, like 1, 2, 3 point perspective or some kind of rhythm or flow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is like another one where,
right.
A lot of this. I mean, if you were to look at this drawing, there's probably a couple of different bits of perspective going on here. Like there's a vanishing point right here, probably right around the turntable, and things are sort of fanning out here. But you get to this side of the drawing and it's more of a flatter sort of kind of horizon on this side. So
is that one whole drawing there?
Yeah, that's the way it looks there, like that.
Okay. It looks like you're showing me 2 drawings.
It was, well, I turned it into I turned it into a diptych.
That makes sense. Okay. I see what you're talking about now. So on one you're looking kind of down and the other one you're looking a little bit more neutral, straight ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, not to give too much away here, but I think, I've been kind of thinking about this NFT thing and about the work that I kind of, that I kind of do for myself. And, this Pear Cider and Cigarettes project, I think is, what I think is kind of interesting here is there's different ways of presenting this work, I think. There's kind of like the graphic novel aspect of it, which is kind of like you get pages, which has like a kind of a page layout like this. but it's the way that this translates into a bit of animation, in a more cinematic kind of way.
Yeah, that's so neat.
That kind of turns it into like two different, it's the same idea, but it's presented in two different ways, right? So I've got a bunch of different examples of this. I've got like, I've got a still piece of artwork. I think this was like a poster.
Mm-hmm.
That's without the text on it. And then it's the way that this translates into animation, like this.
Yeah.
With the fisheye lens, and the camera shakes, and the thing that really moves this along is the narration and the music, and in terms of the storytelling.
One of the big things you had to get permission was from all the music from the bands, like Pink Floyd and everything like that. I remember you going through that.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was incredible. We got an email from Roger Waters at one point, and in order for someone to give you permission, like Pink Floyd, they actually have to look at your work. They have to watch the movie, and they have to see how the music is being used in the context of the film. So, all my life, the Pink Floyd thing has always been kind of a thing where I'm always on the receiving end of that relationship.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there's just for the briefest of moments, those guys I was reciprocating, and then they were looking at what I was doing. David Gilmour looked at it, and Roger Waters looked at it and sent us an email. And to me, that was the most exciting thing I could possibly think of. The fact that, that those guys were actually looking at something I was doing for once.
Exactly. Totally.
And yeah,
that's neat.
That was really. And I there's kind of an educational sort of aspect to this whole thing as well, where sometimes I'll sort of go through all the various steps, and how I sort of arrive at a piece of finished artwork, starting with like the rough drawing, and I think this is another example of.
One day Techno announced that his insurance settlement came in. This time he wasn't lying. There are many points in Techno's life where he could say struggles. The car accident was surely one of these points. The day his settlement came in was another.
So again, it's not what you would call traditional animation. It's definitely carried by the music and the voiceover. I think
some of the effects kind of keep it moving. Definitely.
And I learned a lot from Gorillas in terms of like only moving what you really need to move.
Oh, that's a nice shot. Love that shot right there.
You don't need to animate every scene fully. Some things you don't need to. You save it up for those scenes that you need to animate fully, and the rest of them just need to sort of,
Yeah.
In fact, if there's a variation in the level of quality, the level of finish, you're kind of lulled along at a certain level. And then if one scene it sort of jumps out at a higher level that's more fully animated, it just seems so much more impressive, when that happens.
So it's kind of like contrast, right?
It's like composing a song, you know what I mean? You don't want to start off with the song on 10.
You don't start with the solo exploding, right? You wait, no. You hold off.
Yeah,
you gotta know where to go.
Yeah, and if it gets quiet right before you sort of explode into a part, it gives it that much more like contrast, and
like Smashing Pumpkins or something, right?
Exactly.
Where they would do that. Contrast is everything. I learned that animating too, that you would do the secondary action was something that gave it a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like the hair, if the head tilt, the hair would follow secondary action. You would animate the hair, and leave the head where it was.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's classic Gorilla's limited animation sort of.
It's like Ren and Stimpy for me.
Yeah, well, Ren and Stimpy. I mean, I think it all comes down to the Japanese animation thing at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, limited frames and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, you know,
That's
I
cool.
love the idea of blowing the dust off all this artwork, which is basically not doing anything for me right now, and repurposing it and maybe trying to make a bit of money off of it. We'll see what happens.
The NFT stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But the first thing is I got to get my webpage in order, and then I think I'm gonna apply to like Nifty Gateway to start off with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the NFTs would be great, and you've got the animation creates interest too. People would love that stuff.
You know what I'd really love to do, Chris? This is what I really want to do.
What's that?
I want to do this, not do the whole thing all at once, but maybe release, you know, a few images, you know, to start off with. And if I made enough money to create more new artwork, and then once that artwork is done, do another, you know, NFT drop, and then you create some more money. And so, in other words, if you can use that as a way of financing yourself as you're creating new artwork, is kind of what I would really like to do.
Yeah. Who's that guy who was Blake Blocky, or he was doing a bit of art every day for years, and then they made these NFTs out of the guy, and they sold $1 million or something like that.
Like 63 million.
Yeah, I forget his name, but absolutely. Yeah, you could use that to support your creative work.
I don't need 63 million. I mean,
wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there's got to be a range in here, you know, where I could fall in there comfortably.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I just love the idea of maybe having enough money to you know, finance my little crew to help me do like you know, work on a scene or two, you know, do a drop, make a bit more money, you know, sort of use that as a you know, a different sort of kind of, I don't know, different way of financing your work, as opposed to right now, you know, you kind of have a job and there's a client. The client gives you a brief. You got to check in with your client regularly. And then you're kind of doing it like that, right? But it'd be cool if you could just not, if you could make your artwork without a client involved.
You want to keep, you're a maverick, and you want to keep that wild, independent side alive as long as you can. We all are attracted to that. You know?
Well, you remember what I was saying about, you know, when I was working on Pear Cider and Cigarettes, that was the best time I ever had, man. Couldn't wait till I get up in the morning.
Right.
But, you know, we all want the same thing. We all want to get paid to do whatever we want.
Right. Right. That's the trick, right?
It is the trick. Yeah.
So if you were to, you know, as we wind down here a little bit, we've been going for a little while. If you were to give some tips, let's say to viewers out there on my channel that are, you know, they're at the beginner level, intermediate level, or maybe they want to start a career, what would you say, you know, to 3 things maybe that they could do? I know it's like probably something you haven't thought about in a long time.
No, this is the question you get all the time, to be honest. And I never have a good answer for it. But I tell you what, Chris, man, I tell you what, man, whatever level you and I were at when we started off like 20 or 30 years ago with our Frank Frazetta influences and our books that we used to work from, you know, and our limited ability to see, you know, just the range of different work out there, because we didn't really even have the internet back then. Yeah. Now you look at some kids coming out of school. They're not kids, but they're coming out of art college, and they're so seasoned because they've been looking at all this stuff and they've been absorbing, you know, so much more stuff than we were able to when we were going through it. I mean, it just seems like they're that much further along, you know, by the time they're I mean, there's some hot shit people coming out of these art schools, man.
Yeah. It seems to be always like that, right?
Yeah,
Each one stands on the shoulders of the generation that went before, and they just get better, you know?
for sure. Yeah, because they're digesting everything and more that we've digested, you know.
Plus the schools might be better too. The information's coming at them, like you said,
Yeah.
so fast, so readily. And the schools, when I went to school, they didn't have an animation or concept art, but they do now. And they're very, you know, they're geared towards that because it makes money, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you came into the animation industry, you had your sort of skill set, but there wasn't really that kind of thing offered.
There wasn't
when
a
you were
map
there.
for it, kind of.
There
Unless
wasn't.
you were
No,
Disney, there wasn't the games. If you were
Yeah.
Disney, that's fine, or Warner Brothers, but there wasn't this track for games concept art, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so you were probably doing stuff that probably wasn't the best fit for you, you know, like animating line work, you know,
Right.
assisting for Tony or working with Bosco, you know, doing, you know, one day you're doing something with.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 8 years in that industry, and it took me half that time to figure out what animation was and finally go, oh, it's not oil painting, you know.
Well, you just think differently. Maybe that's not your thing, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do what you do, man. I can't. I mean, that's the thing. That's why animation is perfect for me, because I could never finish a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
I could never do it. I would always, you know, I could not finish a big pile of paper. I could do that, but I couldn't actually take a piece of artwork right to the end, like make a painting. I could never do that. You know?
Yeah, there's less time. The drawings are turned over quicker, so there's this fresh sense like, okay, I got done with that. It was boring me, but I got this new one, and that goes for a little while. And then you can animations like that, you know, where it's fresher. The interval is a lot quicker than taking a drawing 10 hours all the way through.
Well, no, there is that, but for me, there's also like there's a bigger picture involved. So
Yeah.
I was never really too focused on this one particular drawing, because there was like a bigger kind of a thing happening that that kind of made sense of everything else. It put everything into like a certain context.
Uh-huh.
You know, so as much as I wanted to, if I wanted to go in and mess with that nostril, you know, that there was something that just sort of made me think, it doesn't matter. You know, it just needs to be something there in that particular place. The next drawing, there needs to be something that sort of looks like it. And you're kind of thinking in terms of like a sequence of drawings instead of like one particular thing.
Yeah, it's magic. It's totally magic, man. It's like the 3D animation. Of course, it looks great on the screen. It can make you, it can move you, it can inform you. But the process, when the 2D kind of went out, you know, and like whenever Toy Story came in, that was like, I can't do 3D animation. I'm not interested. You know, it was that pencil to paper thing, or even doing it on Photoshop, but you have that tactile sense, that craft is still there.
Oh man, that's totally, I'm all about that, man. I mean, I love to be in the animation studio, and if you took a scene and let's say it was keyed up by like Garrett keyed it up, right? And then that went over to Bosco and Stewart and, you know, whoever else. I could go through those drawings and I could go, okay, Stewart did that drawing because I recognize his line work, and I could go through it and I went, oh, Bosco did that drawing. It's the same model, right? It's keyed up by like Garrett or somebody like this, but there's still little bits of like people's fingerprint that you can recognize. Yeah. And that's what I really enjoy about it.
It's really them on paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes a keen eye though. That's like really like a Sherlock Holmes ability to suss out very small nuances and say, that's that guy and that's that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I started doing that when I started to realize that my comic books that I was collecting, it wasn't all being drawn by one person. Then I realized that
production art.
Then I discovered Jack Kirby, and then I discovered Herb Trimpe, and then I realized this guy sucks. and Jack Kirby's great. And then I discovered this guy. And then now you're looking at styles and how the styles, it's the same character, right? But the styles is kind of what makes the staging and the lighting and the poses, the John Buscema stuff, you know, as opposed to Don Heck. Don Heck is garbage, but John Buscema, you know.
Yeah.
Neil
Adams.
Great
shit.
He was the high watermark.
There's one other thing though that I didn't understand till later, was this whole idea of like, it wasn't drawing, it was about design. It was about the black and white breakout of the shapes on the page. That was like, you know, you could cut out shapes with construction paper and put them down and find an aesthetic arrangement of it, and then infuse that with information. For example, a figure, right? A car or a tree or whatever, and come up with something as a sort of fuel for creativity. Whereas if I went in thinking I have to draw a figure and I have to come up with it, it was sort of easier to, and I think Frazetta alluded to this, he would throw down a shape and then force a figure into it. And that's sort of like this, you know, the elements of design, or the principles of design that are sort of like the backbone of image making, you know, because if it's not interesting coming off the page to you, it's probably something about the shapes and the proportions, right, and the silhouette, not the anatomy of the shoulder or the glint off the cheek. It's something more fundamental than that.
I mean, it's a journey, isn't it?
It's So circling back then, and we'll wind up here. This has been a great, fun conversation and reconnect with you and everything. I've had a great time. As far as, I think we started with you know, having a kid and stuff like that, and how that maybe informed your art, or even your life. Maybe we could, I think, we have to talk about what you wanted to say to students who wanted to come up and make it in a career with art. Probably just practice a lot.
I thought I skirted around that one.
You did. That's good. We can leave it behind.
I don't know.
But I think what I see in your drawings is that this keen observation of the world around you, it's in your drawings. And then when you abstract it out, it's even more impressive, because you took a certain thing, because you can't take everything from life. It's just too overwhelming. You have to abstract it out and then take a little bit more from that and put it on the paper.
Yeah.
And that's a certain knack that you have, and I think we all should have as artists, is looking and saying, what do I see? And what do I want to say from that cornucopia of information coming to us?
Yeah. I mean, I think about the way I feel when I listen to Dark Side of the Moon, you know, just
how does that feel?
It's amazing.
Open.
It is just such excellent lyrics, you know, written by Roger Waters, put with such, you know, it's sort of like, it's a bit analog, but it's kind of digital. It's kind of both things, and it's this tension between Roger Waters and David Gilmour, you know, where, you know, I think those guys work best when they're working together. But it's kind of like, it's the messaging that's involved with that and the expression of it that make me feel like, I feel like I want to do that. You know, I kind of look at filmmaking kind of like, because I'm not a musician, right? But I listen to music, and I would love to do something that has like that sort of depth of meaning, you know. I don't know, that's kind of what's kind of keeps me going. I mean, I don't know if I have, you know, kind of the insight that Roger Waters has. I mean, I'm just gonna, whatever I come up with is kind of what I come up with. That's basically going to be it. But to me, that's kind of the high watermark.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I found what I was looking for. Can I share my desktop again?
Yeah.
Okay, let's close on this here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so this is the first thing I ever did on my Cintiq. Okay.
What's the name? David Bowie.
Yeah. Okay. So I did this. That's the beginning of the drawing. And I thought, oh, that's not working. He's got more of a nose like this. No, that's not. The eyes aren't really in the right area. Okay, I gotta get rid of that. Oh, okay. I'm gonna do a little bit of this here. That's going somewhere. Okay, now it's getting somewhere. Put some shading in. Oops, that's a bit too much. Okay, gotta work that a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna move the bottom part there. That's kind of starting to look a bit strange. Gotta ease off on that, on the
A lot of choices you're going through.
Keith Richards kind of thing going on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, now he's starting to look at that delicate kind of look again. Make him look a little bit more chiseled. A little more chiseled. Oh, get that shadow in there. Oh, it's going somewhere. This is one of those drawings where it really wasn't going anywhere until it kind of finally took a corner. And then it turned out to be okay at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that process.
Yeah, but man, I'll tell you, the way it started out, yeah, this is a perfect example of starting off with this. You know what I mean?
Getting to that, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was going to use a word that you made fun of me. I think I was made fun of before. Lofty. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I used that term because when I was thinking about the art, you were animating this guy going up the stairs and like throwing a ball, whatever. I was like, it's lofty, you know what I mean? And that's what we're talking about. It's like these things that uplift you, that you look to as a standard, you strive for, and that's lofty, to use whatever word you want, right? It could come through music or art, and that's that. When you listen to Pink Floyd, it's kind of like that place that you're at. It's not a time and space thing. It almost, time and place stand still, and you're kind of open to your creative possibilities in that best time.
Well, you know what? I'm super excited. I am so excited because it's been a few years since I've worked on one of my own little short, films.
Yeah.
Like say 2017. I kind of had to go away and make some money for a while, and just, I've been kind of, the last few jobs have been pretty good, but I don't have anything lined up after this next job that I'm working on. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I can maybe start working on one of my own little projects again,
Yeah.
So I've been sort of doing some writing, and I've come up with this, I've come up with some stories. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got 12 stories there that I've written. Some of them are bad, and some of them I think aren't bad. And I just want to take some time off and start putting out, not like Pear Cider was like 30 minutes, right? 35 minutes. I don't want to do that. I just wanted to put out nice little short independent films with no audience in mind. I'm not looking to submit anything to the Oscars. I'm not trying to get hits on my well, no, that would be nice to get hits on my
social media.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to have a YouTube channel or something like that. That'd be good. But
right, yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want to do it without, without worrying about what's going to happen. If it doesn't work, what's going to happen. I want to remove all that stuff and just get into the actual sort of process of making some independent work again and just sort of see where it goes.
Yeah.
You know,
That reminded me of the heavy metal stuff that you did. You did stuff for heavy metal, right?
yeah.
So it
Yeah.
could go, I mean, it could go into that, or it could go into actual like film, right? Or video, which is,
Well, I think I'm going to start off with doing one still image from every story, like just that quintessential moment from every story, and then use that as a starting point.
sounds good.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
hope
the truth is, I've already
that.
tried pitching this shit around, and nobody's interested.
All right. He's got to keep at it, right?
Got to keep at it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is a good time maybe to wrap up. It has been a real pleasure connecting with you, Robert, again, and kind of reminiscing and talking about art and something that's, you know, taken up our life and it's near and dear to us and stuff. You know, it's been cool.
Hey, man. Hey, you know what?
Thanks for doing this.
I miss you. I miss you, Chris. I miss all my friends from the States and California. You know, it's you know, I'm glad that we have the internet and we can connect like this, but that was a real drag when, you know, I had to move back up to Canada. And so, you know, just the fact that, you know, we're not able just to randomly just hang out and, you know, have a beer and have a chat. Yeah.
Right.
Man, all my best friends were in freaking California, you know?
Yeah. Why couldn't you come back? What happened?
It's just,
we don't have to get into it.
Yeah, it was just something. Yeah, it was a work visa thing. Something happened at the airport, and one thing led to another. And this guy decided that, you know, just hit the wrong dude.
Yeah, that's ugly, man. Sucks. Sorry about that. Well, we'll have to come up to your neck of the woods. You know, I'll take my wife up, and she can see some of Canada.
It's not bad up here.
That'd be neat. Okay. Well, it's beautiful up there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, we've made a go of it up here, and yeah, met nice people, and it's a good place for Jackson to go to school. And you know what? I'm keeping busy. I got the internet, and nobody cares if you work in the studio anymore. Right. Obviously, after this pandemic, it's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, I've been, you know, launching courses, drawing courses, portrait drawing courses, all that stuff. So that's part of my staple.
Is it?
Yeah. It's the internet. Selling on the internet.
So you sell tutorials, you package them up and sell them?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Draw Juice is my website. Got to have the juice. You know what I'm talking about? All right, dude. Well, yeah. Okay. Let's wrap up. Thanks again. And we will put this out there and people can discover you a little bit more from my realm, you know, from my tribe of people.
That's awesome. Okay, brother. Let's follow up if you need any images to sort of edit together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ping you and let you know. All right.
Okay.
Peace out, Matt.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye, Robert. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Draw Juice podcast. And a huge thank you to Robert Valley for joining me. To see more of Robert's work, you can find him on Instagram at Robert_Valley, link in the description. Now, if you like this episode of the Draw Juice podcast and you'd like to see more content like this, click that like button and leave me a comment down below. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. As always, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and other social media outlets. I'll give all those links in the description below. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you again soon.